Boy going
Karmelo Anthony's going to go to jail.
Karmelo going to jail because listen, you cannot bring a weapon to school.
Yeah.
So you can't say I was.
What if he says? But what if he says self-defense?
There's no self-defense because if you are afraid the day before, where you have to take a weapon to school, why not notify your parents? Parents, you notify the school teacher. School teacher that's bringing these kids in here and resolve this issue is called conflict resolution. We was taught in homes that has morals and values, you tell the teacher. Somebody fucking with you, you tell the teacher. Let the teachers know. So when y'all have an altercation, you're cleared and you're covered. Documentation beats conversation.
What's good, my Souls of Thought family? It's your boy Norris, and we back again. We're going live today. We back again. We also live on my Instagram right now. If you made it this far, if you were able to get through that quick intro and get to this live streaming, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe, and let's get it going, man. What we're here to do today is to talk about facts and not feelings. We all know the case with Karmelo Anthony and the young man. I want to say his first name was Austin Metcalf. This happened last week at the Frisco, Texas track meet. It happened out there at the stadium, and the police report has been released. So we're going to go through the police report today. We're going to see what was said from the police officers who were on scene, who responded to what actually happened. And then after that, we're going to break down the penal code so that people can understand the difference between murder and self-defense. With that being said, before I get into this long, just breakdown of the police report, I want us to really just take a second and take a step back to understand that right now there's a family that's hurting, that lost a loved one, and they're never going to see that loved one again. And we have to remember that every action has a reaction. Everything has a consequence. Everything that happens in life is going to end with some form of consequence. With that being said, rest in peace to the Metcalf family. Nothing's going to change the feeling you guys feel. If you guys were able to see his father speak on the news, he did say that they forgive Karmelo already. The biggest thing is just understanding that we have to understand there's right and there's wrong. And in this instance, Karmelo was wrong. And we're going to be able to talk about it a little bit more today by looking at the police report. With that being said, I really pray for our community, the people who have raised almost $250,000 in the GoFundMe. GoFundMe actually discontinued that fundraiser because it wasn't right, doesn't make sense. None of this stuff makes sense. So we're going to jump right into it, man. We're going to break down this police report today. And I'm going to put it up on the screen so that you guys are able to see it. This is the official police report. It actually dropped yesterday from the Frisco, Texas Police Department. And we're going to kind of go through this. As you can see here, the date that Karmelo was arrested was 4/2/2025. Looks like it was 10:01 a.m. His real full name is Karmelo Sincere Anthony. Very unique middle name. Address, he's from Frisco. Black male, 17 years old, 5'9", 130 pounds, black hair, brown eyes. They marked out all the pertinent information. As you can see, he was actually born here in Baton Rouge. Wasn't born in Texas. He actually came from Louisiana to Texas. As you can see here, it has his employer's name. Looked like he was actually going to start his new job that day. HEB, as a HEB cashier. We know he didn't make it there. With that being said, yeah, he would have been a cashier on that day. He would have had a shift that day. I'm sure HEB doesn't want that on the police report. But let's see here. The charges right now are allegedly being charged with first-degree felony of murder. As you can see, he had no bond, no fines at the time. So right here, we're going to go with the first officer that arrived on scene. This is Officer Cortez Geraldo. Adult male was taken into custody following a stabbing call on the Frisco department, on the Frisco Sports Department property. Let's see here. So it says on 4/02/25 at 10:01 hours, I, Stanley School Resource Officer E. Cortez, heard over the radio dispatch call out a stabbing call at the David, was that Kuykendall Stadium. The Frisco Police Department call notes indicated that an athlete was stabbed. The suspect was reported as being a black male wearing a gray hoodie and blue sweatpants. I immediately left my office and ran across the Stanley Middle School parking lot towards the southwest entrance into the stadium. As I entered the stadium, 2 high school age students informed me that the victim was on the north end of the stadium by the bleachers under Memorial High School tent. I did not identify these students. Next, I proceeded towards the north end of the stadium, visitor side on foot. As I got closer to the north end, I could see the Memorial High School tent with multiple individuals under the tent. Once I arrived on the north side bleachers, an adult male who was on the track pointed out the suspect. I was not able to identify that witness. The individual was pointed out to me was a black male wearing a gray hoodie, sweater, and dark colored Nike pants. The suspect at this point was on the track on the north end. There was a chain link fence that separated me from the suspect. I gave the suspect instructions to keep his hands up in the air. During this time, the suspect said verbally out loud, "I was protecting myself." It should be noted that I did not question him about the incident when he made that comment. And that's a very, very key moment. You could tell these police are very well trained. And he's making that statement very clear because there were no Miranda rights spoken or given to this person. So anything he would have said to the young man at that time would have been not admissible in court. So very good job on the police behalf. So he said he should be noted that I did not question him about the incident when we made that comment. I asked him if he had any weapons. He said no. I patted him down for weapons while we were walking along the fence, and I did not locate any on his person. I instructed the male to continue walking along the fence, which he complied towards an area where there was an opening in the fence that led off the track. While walking him off the track, the suspect also said he put his hands on me. I detained the suspect in handcuffs, handcuffed behind his back, and set him down on the ground. Officer A. Ricky had arrived on scene at that time. I conducted another pat down of his person and then searched his person after he gave me consent. No weapons were located. While the suspect sat on the ground, I advised that I had the alleged suspect. The suspect then responds and says, "I'm not alleged. I did it." So, yeah, not helping itself. I did it. Next, Officer Ricky and I walked the suspect to the patrol vehicle 2412. This is the Officer A. Ricky's patrol vehicle. For those of you who are not very familiar with the law enforcement, the reason why these details are here, the patrol car that the personnel was put in, is very important because they're going to do a beginning mileage and an ending mileage when they take the alleged suspect in. All those things have to be on point because it's things that can actually throw off a case. For those who didn't know, I did work in law enforcement for 5 years of my military career, so I'm very familiar with the chain of custody. I'm very familiar with evidence and how you need to do things when you apprehend someone, which was on the northeast gate of the Kuykendall Stadium. As we were walking to the SWAT car, the suspect was emotional and said he put his hands on me. I told him not to. I did not question the suspect about the incident while he was escorted to the patrol car. I searched his person once again, and I had him sit in the back seat area, driver's side of the patrol vehicle 2412. While the suspect was in the back seat, I noticed fresh blood on his left middle finger. I verbally acknowledged that I saw the blood out loud so that it would be captured on my body worn camera. It should also be noted that the suspect asked me, is he going to be okay, while he was in the back seat. I then identified the suspect. He provided his name and date of birth verbally as Karmelo Anthony, black male with a date of birth of, which I ran through the Frisco Police Department dispatch. Officer Jay Hancock arrived on scene and remained with me and the suspect at this point. Karmelo was then checked via the database for the Frisco school as a database as a Frisco Independent School District student to also confirm his identity. The identifying information he provided matched the individual I had in custody, Karmelo Anthony. Next, I was advised by Sergeant Holland to transport the subject to the Frisco Police Department jail. Officer Hancock and I transported him to the Frisco Department jail. Again, I did not question Karmelo about the incident. If you notice, this police officer is very thorough, very good. Searched him over 3 times. Made sure that he had his body cam on when he noticed the blood on the hand and made it say it out loud. Upon arrival at the Frisco jail, Karmelo was escorted in the intake area. The Frisco Police Department jail staff changed him out into the jail attire. I remained with the jail staff the entire time that he was changed over. The clothes that Karmelo was wearing was placed in the Frisco Police Department paper evidence bag. The clothes remained in my possession from this point on. Upon Karmelo being placed, Karmelo's clothes in the back trunk area. I drove the patrol vehicle 2412 out of the Sally Port and parked the SWAT car in the Frisco Police Department patrol parking area. Karmelo's clothes remained in the trunk area of the vehicle. 2412, the Frisco Police Department crime scene technician Kay Dillard then took possession of Karmelo's clothes. I added my body-worn camera to the case. I have no further information to report. Next, we have Officer Ricky Allison on 4/02/2025 at 1000 hours and once that would be 10:01 hours. Officer Ricky, badge number 3806, was wearing a full Frisco Police uniform as I was operating a fully marked Frisco police vehicle. Another very thorough police officer, as you can tell. At about that time, I was dispatched to report of a stabbing at the David Cook. It's a Kukendall Stadium. I hope I'm saying that right. Frisco Police Department, Frisco Police Dispatch advised an athlete had been stabbed. The suspect was described as a black male wearing a gray hooded sweatshirt and blue sweatpants. I responded code 3 from the area of El Dorado Parkway and Frisco Street. I arrived on scene at approximately 10:05. When I arrived on scene, I approached the track field area and saw Officer Cortez kneeling next to a black male wearing a gray hooded sweatshirt, and blue sweatpants. The male, later identified as Karmelo Anthony, was in handcuffs and was seated on the sidewalk by the entrance to the track. As I approached Officer Cortez stated Anthony was the alleged suspect. Anthony then made a spontaneous statement and stated, "I'm not alleged, I did it." Officer Cortez conducted a pat search of Anthony's person to ensure Anthony did not have any weapons and found nothing of evidence value. Officer Cortez and I then walked Anthony to my pre-search patrol vehicle, and Anthony was seated in the rear driver's side compartment of the patrol vehicle. While walking to my patrol vehicle, Anthony made another spontaneous statement and asked if what happened could be considered self-defense. I replied by telling Anthony I did not know what happened. It should be noted the in-car camera in my patrol vehicle was activated prior to Anthony being placed in my patrol vehicle. Again, very thorough. They're not responding to him. They're just giving him very simple responses. A very, very good police department in Frisco. While Officer Cortez stated Anthony, while Officer Cortez assisted Anthony into my patrol vehicle, I noticed Anthony had blood on his middle finger. I grabbed my department issued digital camera and took a photograph of Anthony's hands. I later uploaded the photograph to the crime scene folder under his case number. Officer Cortez remained with the vehicle and Anthony while they provided assistance with scene security. Nothing further from this officer. Next up, we have old Otis, Will Otis. On Wednesday, April the 2nd, 2025, at around 1000 hours, Frisco Police Department officers were dispatched to the Frisco Independent School District, David Kukendall Stadium Lane A, Frisco, Collin County, Texas, in reference to a stabbing victim call. Frisco Police Department Emergency Communications was receiving an emergency call regarding an athlete that was stabbed. The original unknown assailant was a black male wearing a gray hoodie and blue sweatpants, and also a gold tee and short hair. The subject was possibly wearing Centennial High School attire, as it was believed he was a student there for the sporting event. This had all taken place on the visitor side of the stadium, north side, and the victim was under the Memorial High School tent in the bleachers. At around the same time, school resource officer Cortez arrived on scene and began assisting the victim, trainers, and other parties. Officer Cortez also advised on the radio that he also had the suspect. Sergeant Otis was working the 50s sector as the sergeant. He was a full Frisco Police Department uniform with distinct patches and badge and a police duty belt. He was also marked Frisco Police Department Patrol Vehicle 2315. He was relatively close to the call and placed himself on it at around 10:02 hours and responded to the call with his patrol vehicles, overhead emergency lights and sirens activated. Again, very, very thorough police department. He arrived to the call at around 10:06 hours. Sergeant Otis arrived to the stadium and began walking up to the location. At around this time, Officer Cortez and Officer Ricky were walking a black male suspect, the suspect, away from the stadium. The suspect was crying hysterically. Please see the other involved officers' narratives for their involvement. Sergeant Otis walked up to the visitors' bleachers and observed the victim being treated by Frisco Fire Department personnel and also the athletic trainers. The weather began to turn and it began to heavily downpour rain. At this time, some of the FISD staff removed the memorial tent to cover the victim and the FFD personnel. Sergeant Otis began using his city issued phone to snap crime scene photos to preserve as much of the scene as possible due to the weather and large gathering of people that were involved in the incident. Other officers began to set up a crime scene with moving non-essential personnel out of the immediate area. The officers on scene were informed that the knife that was used was tossed and was still believed to be somewhere close. Eventually, one of the witnesses said they remember seeing it on the bleachers still. Officer Shawls was able to locate the knife. It was located between rows 9 and 10 near seat 30. Very thorough, man. Closest to the aisle, partially open. The rain began to come down again heavily, and it was determined that instead of moving a knife, the officers could cover it with a large blue tarp. Sergeant Otis assisted in preserving the immediate crime scene as much as possible, while the other personnel tended to the victim and eventually transported him. At around this time, Officer Wetzel had the crime scene log and began logging the individuals on the call to the best of his abilities. Lieutenant Crawford and Pemberton relieved Sergeant Otis of the scene. Sergeant Otis went back to the police department to department to download his body cam and the photos he took with the city-issued phone. Sergeant Otis' city-issued phone had a total of 33 photos and were used to document the incident scene. During the download, the initial photos formatting was incompatible with the crime scene folder. He re-downloaded the photos that he took, and they were able to be saved properly for preservation of the evidence. At this time, there is nothing further to report. Man, they're thorough. These officers went through everything. Then you go on to Wetzel Taylor. Everybody had the same thing at the beginning. We're going to skip down to when I arrived on scene. I grabbed a roll of scene tape from the trunk and proceeded to the visitors' bleachers, where dispatch advised the victim was. While I was walking towards the visitors' bleachers, I was approached by a witness who identified himself as, they took the name, began telling me what happened, and I asked him where the stabbing occurred. Advised it happened under the Memorial High School pop-up tent in the visitors' bleachers. I immediately informed Sergeant Otis where the witness stated the stabbing occurred and gave him the crime scene tape to start securing the crime scene. I had moved to the walkway under the visitors' bleachers out of the rain to further speak with him. The following is a summary of my contact with blank. Advised he was sitting under the memorial pop-up tent with his team and was near the victim, Austin, and the subject, who was later identified as Karmelo Anthony. Anthony was from Centennial High School and was sitting under the memorial school tent. Austin had told Anthony that he needed to move out from under their team's tent, and Anthony grabbed his bag, opened it, and reached inside and proceeded to tell Austin, "Touch me and see what happens." No one really thought Anthony really had any weapons in his bag, and Austin proceeded to touch Anthony, and Anthony pulled out what blank recalled as a black knife and stabbed Austin once in the chest and then ran away. Austin began grabbing his chest and telling everyone to get help. Advised he did not know Anthony's name, but stated another Memorial Track member. Blank friends was with Anthony and could identify Anthony. Described Anthony as a black male, skinny with a possible goatee, short puffy hair, and wearing Centennial High School clothing. This concluded my contact with the blank. I was instructed to start a crime scene log. I retrieved the crime scene log from the patrol car vehicle and began starting the crime scene log. I was later relieved by Officer Schultz, who took over the crime scene log and cleared the scene. You had Officer Hancock, Jerry Hancock. After hearing more dispatch call information, I drove to the scene. While en route, I heard Officer Cortez say he has the subject in custody. When I got on scene, I looked for Officer Cortez and went straight to him to hold security with the suspect. He had cuffed and secured in the police squad. Multiple witnesses were providing statements to the officers where the stabbing occurred at the Memorial High School track tent. Only a short time later, Officer Cortez and myself escorted the suspect, Karmelo Sincere Anthony, to the Frisco Adult Holding Facility. Anthony was transitioned off to the jail without incident. All jail paperwork was completed, and CID took the investigation from there. All right, Officer Fisher, let's see what they had to say. Okay. So everybody else, as you see, was arriving on scene, giving their turn, pretty much everything that the first officer said. And then everybody who had an opportunity to get on scene, they gave it what they did on the scene. This is a very thorough police report. You can go download this yourself and actually read it for yourself. And as you can see, there were a lot of suspects, a lot of people who actually are provided statements. They have their names on there, what team they were with. So more to come on that. We should be able to see a lot of I'm sure they're going to start releasing some of the statements from the students. With that being said, these things really have to start being thought out, man. We get a lot of we get a lot of just sad moments, man. Very, very sad moments. Let's see what my boy Devon Johnson said. He said, "What do you think the final charge may be based on current information?" Man, I think he's going to be. I think it's going to be murder, man. I'm actually going to go over those penal codes from Texas, kind of reading what's going on. I think the young man did a lot more damage by talking to the police officers. I think if he would have just remained silent and just been emotional, he would have had a better chance of kind of defending himself afterwards, even though everybody else probably would provide their statements. I think he would have had a better chance with that, man. So yeah, so you agree. Yeah, it's a very sad situation too, man. Very, very, very sad situation. But I think what's the worst thing is just people not understanding that right is right, wrong is wrong, man. And that's what I'm here to actually talk about. Is just appreciate your support, David, man. Yeah, so I just appreciate people listening in, man. I just wanted to give that full police report so that people could understand what's going on. We have people actually doing a GoFundMe, raise this young man almost $250,000, and everybody's complaining about tariffs and everybody's complaining about money. But it seems like when we want to protect somebody, we can protect them and we can come up with that money fast. But you said I feel bad for Carmelo. I was charged with attempted murder. What? Yeah, man. It's sad, man. I actually did a video prior to this, man. I felt like it was a lose-lose. One gentleman lost his life, and the other person actually going to lose his life. He's going to lose his innocence, man. I don't think people are going to really see the whole thing through, man. But I'm glad that you made it through, man. I'm glad you made it through. Shoot. But yeah. So we're going to go on and start talking about some of these penal codes here, man. Bring up some of this stuff. So the first one that we're going to discuss is, man, we're going to actually talk about, so you guys can see it on the screen. What you said there, that I agree, 2 young boys that left emotions to, yep, facts, man. And one is going to lose their life and one's going to lose their innocence, man. So, man, appreciate that, man. Stay tuned, man. I'm going to move on to these codes so that people can really start seeing what's going on here. Let's see. So right here, as you see, we have the penal codes, man. Right here, this actually comes from the state of Texas. I pulled this up from the state of Texas. These are their penal codes. This is Chapter 19, criminal homicide, and it actually gives you the definition, man, of murder. It says in Section 19.02, murder is adequate cause, means cause that could commonly produce a degree of anger, rage, resentment, or terror in a person, or ordinary temper sufficient to render the mind incapable of cool reflection. But up here it has the definition. So it talks about a person commits criminal homicide if he intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly, or with criminal negligence causes the death of an individual. Criminal homicide is murder, capital murder, manslaughter, or criminally negligent homicide. As you see here, they break it down, all this stuff, man. If you go down here to the bottom in Section 19.03, it starts to talk about capital murder. A person commits an offense if the person commits commits murder as defined under Section 1902, which was above. I think the biggest thing they're going to try to do, I know they said they mentioned that they're going to try to actually utilize the self-defense, but I don't think self-defense is going to work for this case. Right here, when it comes to self-defense, right here, as you can see, self-defense falls under the justification It still go, if you see up here, it still goes along with justification, including criminal responsibility. So they break this down very thorough there. Let's see here. But right here in section 9 9.31 self-defense, it says, except as provided in the subsections, a person is justified in using force against another when and to the degree the actor reasonably believes the force is immediately necessary to protect the actor against the others. Use or attempted use of unlawful force. The actor's belief that the force was immediately necessary, as described by this subsection, is presumed to be reasonable if the actor. Then it goes on to give you all these examples of the things that falls into, like, if somebody was actually using a certain amount of force. We all know that civilians don't have a true use of force model like the police department does, but we all can use common sense and state that you have to meet somebody with the same amount of force they're meeting you with. And as you read throughout that police, as you heard throughout the police statement, there was never a time where Austin or Metcalf, who was actually providing any type of lethal blows, there was never a moment in the police evidence that talks about, another weapon was brandished. This gentleman came to a track meet with a weapon, actually was telling the person, hey, if you touch me, I'm gonna show you, you know, not saying, and this sounds bad because we still have to look at both sides, right? We can't just look at one side, right? The gentleman Karmelo did tell McCaff, don't touch me, and he touched him. And I know I've seen some videos where people say you F around, you find out, things of that nature. With that being said, we have to start using a lot more intelligence. I think this is what you see as a lack of probably father presence in the household. We have a lot of African American males who are now seeking the wrong type of intention. From the background checks that they talked about when it came to Carmelo, he was doing very well. I don't know what his life looked like prior to moving to Texas, because if you guys were here listening to me read the police report, he's not originally from Frisco, Texas. He's originally from good old Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So we don't know what he's seen. We don't know if he had any type of PTSD. We don't know what all kind of went into the action. But also, if you watch the beginning of my intro of this live, you seen Charleston Wright talking about the actions that should have took place, right? Because people have to remember that the track became a new scene for the school, right? It was almost like the alternate location of the school. No one can bring a weapon to a school, period. So it doesn't matter that they weren't actually at a school. When they were at that track is still part of the school district, still started part of the property. So he still brought a weapon to an event unlawfully. And so those are the things that are all going to be taken into place. And one of the things that I really wanted to hit on was, I don't think people understand the type of force that it takes to stab a person. Stabbing a person is not something that is easily done, especially, to go through the chest plate of a person, to hit them in the heart. That takes a lot of force. When I was serving in law enforcement in my first 5 years of service, they talked about how deadly it was. A person who uses a knife, and they're dangerous. They're more dangerous than a person with a gun, just due to the distance that they can attack you from. Sometimes people can stab you before you can even get your gun out. So just something to think about. But the biggest thing is, how do we improve these type of scenarios? Because I always want to talk about what is the solution. Like, how do we change these type of situations from happening? Like, what is the solution? What should we look to do in these type of situations? And I think Charleston Wright actually brought up one of the best ideas, and it was if you feel that someone's a threat, or if you feel that you are in a possible situation where somebody's going to be a threat, if you ever dealt with bullying, things of that nature, maybe you should let someone know. Trying to defend yourself, trying to stand up and be a man, it's not going to serve you at the end of the day. We're making this out to be a race thing, which it has no comparison. And yesterday, I actually posted something. I posted it on my YouTube channel, but I talked about this in my YouTube. I mean, on a YouTube episode, and I talked about where I feel like we're going in today's world. And it was just like a reflection of like what we're dealing with. And one of the things I said was, I'm gonna read this to you guys. It says, now every headline sparks a comparison. A man in our community faces a serious charge. Allegedly and instantly, we go into defense mode. But what about Rittenhouse? We say, if that name justifies ours, as if injustice in one lane somehow redeems wrongdoing in another, we're taking our power and instead of building with it, we diluted it, drowned it with the waters of comparison. And that's what I'm starting to see, because everybody is making this situation into a race situation. The young man stabbed another young man. Take race out of the story, take names out the story. If I came to you and just gave you this story with no names, no race, no location, you guys are going to feel that that person who stabbed that other person is wrong. But instead of dealing with what's at hand, we become very emotional, and now we want to do GoFundMe's and things of that nature for someone who's going to be going to jail. That $250,000 that you guys have GoFundMe for Karmelo Anthony could have went to another young family. You guys could have been using that money in other ways. It's very interesting to me how people can come together for a cause that's really not a cause. But then when there's really a cause, we can't find anyone. What about the families who lost their homes in North Carolina during the floods? And all, where is people raising $250,000 that quickly for those type of people? What is the solution, guys? And I feel like the solution is, first of all, we have to have more fathers present in their children's lives, because a lot of these incidents, these people are being raised by their mothers. They don't have the emotional intelligence to move forward, to deal with problems, to deal with issues. And I heard something last week that I thought was very interesting. I forgot who said it, but they explained being a man, the definition of being a man is suffering. Because a man is going to go through a lot throughout their lives. We as men, we go through a lot of things in silence. We go through a lot of things that people don't really know about, and we have to get through them. And some of us get through them, and some of us are get broken. And the biggest thing is making sure that you're putting God in your life as a man, and make sure that you're doing things the right way. And I'm gonna tell you guys, in today's society, it's not worth your manhood. Trying to prove yourself to someone, trying to even for the Metcalf family. I know you guys lost a son, but you also have to look at when someone tells you not to touch them, don't touch them. Don't mess with them. Don't listen. Take heed. And I'm hoping that even though both of these families have lost, the Karmelo family has lost, the Metcalf family has lost, one lost their life again, and the other one lost their innocence because he's going to jail. And if you guys really want to look at the race of it all, you guys already know this black male is in the state of Texas. In Frisco, as you've seen on the police department, they did a very, very good job going very detailed with the reports. The young man was very emotional, but he was instantly seeking a way out. And that's something that you really have to think about. He committed a crime, and then the first thing that he thought about was this self-defense. He started to try to defend himself, which he tried to do underneath that tent as well. So he must have something in him that just a defense mechanism. And, like I said, I'm not here to judge the young man. I don't know him, but I'm going straight off of facts and not feelings. The facts are right there in front of you. There's no way that this is self-defense. And I've talked to other black men about this story, and a lot of them say the same thing. Wrong is wrong, right is right. they could have squared up and shot the fair one. They ain't have to. You ain't have to pull a knife. And I'm gonna tell you what's gonna make this really confusing is that when they go to trial, if they start bringing these witnesses up and stuff, it's gonna be one white story, one black story. And this trial is gonna go on for a while because it's gonna pull the emotional strings of the people on the jury. Because you have to think about it all, people who are parents that are on the jury, people who have lost someone from murder. It's just going to have so many different people on that jury, and you're going to have to really think about, man, how do I do this? Do I take away this young man who hasn't even really started to live life yet? Do I take away his life for him to learn a lesson? Or do we somehow try to rehabilitate him without giving him so much time? He has to do some time. He's going to do some time. With that being said, we're losing too many of our people, man. And when I say our people, not just black people, I'm saying people in general. We are losing everyone. We're losing people from pointless crimes, things that don't matter. And I say the biggest solution is, men, we have to do better. We have to provide more common sense. We have to provide more knowledge. We have to start giving these young men what they need. That's why I'm very big on reading books. I'm very big on people educating themselves and not just looking at things from a one-sided picture. We have to really start teaching our young men how to sit down and process their issues. It doesn't have to be a famous person on YouTube. It doesn't have to be a superstar or a celebrity that tells you how to process these things. We need to really start taking these young men under our wing and showing them the way. Because if we don't, this is just the tip of the iceberg. And with social media, when you have 50-50, where some people accept the wrongs and some people don't accept the wrongs, it's going to really just validate that people feel okay to do the things that they do. So before I let you guys go today, I want to say thank you to everyone who chimed in, everyone who listened to this live. It will be posted on my channel, Souls of Thought, on YouTube. But I highly encourage you guys to check out the police report so that you can read it for yourself. I highly encourage everyone to take the facts and not the feelings. And like I said, it's a sad moment. We lost 2 young men simultaneously, one from emotions and the other one from bad character. Because I still have to question them in Calf's character. When someone tells you don't touch them, don't touch them. So I do see both sides, but I also see that young Karmelo Anthony now has to deal with the consequences of his actions. And we should never support the wrong action. And that's what you're doing when you're raising money, GoFundMes, people going on TikTok saying crazy stuff. It just doesn't make sense, guys. But before I let you guys go, you guys know how I end all my videos. God loves you, which is most importantly. I love you. You're beautiful. Your boy's out. There you go.